When I was doing my documentation for the group yesterday, I noticed that I may not have given you enough information or didn't touch on it extensively enough to give you an accurate understanding of what a trauma bond is. So, although today I planned on presenting a group about effective conflict resolution within the parameters of a healthy relationship, I thought it would be a good idea to just make sure that this is understood before we move on to that. So I've written up on the board, first of all, the definition of a trauma bond. I know it sounds like it means when two people share similar traumas or they experience a traumatic event together, and that's what kind of makes them get close and connected through that. But that's not what it is. In this context, when I was describing different types of narcissists and the toxic behavior that follows when you're engaged in a relationship with a narcissist, it's inevitable you're going to experience narcissistic abuse. Granted, if they're not treating their illness, because narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health disorder. So if they're going untreated for their condition, which many times that is the case, narcissists are resistant to seeking help, just like many drug addicts. They're not willing to admit they have a problem, first of all, and even if they are shown that there is a problem, they don't think it's a good idea to change it for the better. And unfortunately, in our culture, in our society, it's rewarded even. So you can imagine if you didn't have consequences like from the drugs and alcohol, as far as being homeless and sick and on the street and going through all that, getting locked up, if instead you were being given more money, more prestige, and you were able to get over on more people and take advantage of situations, you'd probably not want to stop. And that's the thing with narcissists. A lot of times they're rewarded in our culture and our society. They climb the corporate ladders. A lot of our leaders, our politicians, our celebrities, like I shared yesterday, they are absolutely narcissistic. And that's what's propelled them forward. So you talk to a person like that who's in office right now in the White House, and like, hey man, you got a problem, why don't you get some help? He's gonna look at you like, are you fucking kidding me? Right? And their narcissism will also give them that idea that they're superior to everyone anyway. So even if they were to sit with a therapist or a psychiatrist, they're still gonna think themselves as being more qualified, have more expertise than the ones that actually can help them. So it's just one of those situations. It's a really, really difficult condition to be in. What I wanted to do was give you guys tools to be able to identify the narcissistic behavior and to identify if perhaps you had been caught up in a narcissistic cycle of abuse. Sometimes it's a repetitive pattern in our lives. If we've gone through it once, we've probably gone through it twice, maybe all our lives. I know in my case, I grew up with a narcissistic parent, and every relationship that I had after that seemed to be the same until I got this information and I started working on myself to make the adjustments so that I could protect myself from falling back into those traps. A trauma bond is not when two people share the same trauma or if they experience a traumatic event together. A trauma bond, when it is instilled by an abuser, does not go both ways. So the abuser is never bonded to their victim the way the victim becomes bonded to the abuser. So when we think of trauma bond, think of the victim, not the abuser. The victim is always the one who has this condition. And it is a deep, unhealthy emotional attachment that develops in response to a cycle of abuse, manipulation, and intermittent kindness. It causes the victim to feel intense loyalty or dependency toward their abuser, making it difficult to leave the relationship. The bond is fueled by neurochemical addiction to the highs and lows, often referred to as intermittent reinforcement. So this is a psychological thing that happens when people experience like that love bombing stage in the beginning. It always starts with that. That love bombing stage when the narcissist or the abuser, the predatorial individual who wants to exploit people, that person in the beginning is never revealing who they really are. They always want to present themselves as being your dream come true, the best thing that ever happened to you. And so they embellish you with extravagant affection and attention and love and gifts and passionate lovemaking and all those things, whatever it is that stimulates you, that elevates you, that makes you feel so wrapped up in the moment. That's key to the trauma bond, because once they've lifted you up so high, now they're in a position to control you, because they know that even after they begin to abuse you, mistreat you, you'll always reflect on the initial feelings that you had, that they provoked in you. And so you'll be hesitant to just leave, because that's what you really want. And you think that you can have it all the time. You think that it's something that's sustainable. And it's just like a drug addiction or an alcohol problem. We're constantly chasing that first high. And our fantasy, our delusion is that somehow we can manage this and it'll be great if we could just have our cake and eat it too. And so this is a neurochemical addiction, because the dopamine, the serotonin, the oxytocin, those things, those feel-good emotions come from those chemicals that get released when we're experiencing this intensity with a person who's just knocking our socks off in the beginning. And then when we experience the pain and the torment, the suffering from the abuse that follows, it also brings us way down. And then when it comes back around, even if it's not as great as it was in the beginning, just any little bit of it, if they're abusing you after they treated you so well, it hurts really bad, like severely, because you couldn't imagine this person would do that to you. But then when they come back and they treat you kindly again, it picks you back up. And so it's that cycle of suffering and pain and then relief and pleasure that gets us caught up with the abuser. It's just like drugs. You know, the amount of relief and pleasure you get from a substance is in direct proportion to the amount of suffering that you're experiencing. And many of us became addicts, not because we're just allergic to the chemicals and we had this adverse reaction in our bodies because we're just strange particular people. No, I believe that we already carried within something going on within us, some deficiencies, some emotional disturbances, some unresolved trauma, some grief, some sorrow, some depression, anxiety, things that are pre-existing within us that made sobriety so unbearable that once we got some relief through the chemicals, through the alcohol, the drugs, it was like, wow, I haven't felt this way ever. I love this. I want to always feel this good. And of course, we're going to continue to pursue it. It's not going to be one of those things that you could just be like, oh, that was cool, that was fun, I don't need that anymore. No, we're like, I need more of that. In the same sense, when you meet somebody that starts to treat you better than you treat yourself, or better than anyone else ever did, feels great. And you're going to want more of that. And when that person makes you believe in them and their ability to exalt you to such a high level of pleasure and love and connection, which you perceive as genuine, authentic connection, intimacy, once they hurt you and they break all that down and make you feel like shit, all you want is for it to go back to the way it was. And so they use that to continuously keep you in their control by going back and giving you that love or that fake love to help you to stay around, to stick around. And it comes in intervals. Think of how people get addicted to casinos. The slot machines. Slot machines are so effective to keep people pulling the lever, putting the money in them, pulling the lever, because it operates on the same principle of intermittent reinforcement. So when people put the money in the slot machine, they anticipate what's going to happen, and they pull the lever, and then sometimes they get nothing. And they're like, shit, I'm going to do it again, because you never know. And then when that little bit of money comes out, then you feel like, oh shit, that was cool, I want to do that again, right? And that's how people get addicted to gambling. And that's not a drug, that's not a chemical, but it's something that's happening to your brain. And there's people who get addicted to gambling the way we get addicted to drugs and alcohol, or how people get caught up in these toxic relationships. And one of the main signs of being in a trauma bond is when you feel addicted to your abuser. And that's tough, right? It's like, if you're with somebody that is not good to you, other people in your life that love you, that care about you, it could be your family, your children, maybe even your former partner that still cares about you and wants to see you do better for yourself. Or just a friend, somebody that sees what you're going through and they're like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you still with this person? This person's terrible for you. This person doesn't love you. That's not what love looks like. And you're just so strung out on them that you don't want to hear it. Even when they're right. And deep down inside, you know it's true. Just like when we're in our addiction to our drug of choice. We know it's bad for us. We know it's causing problems. We know that the people who love us don't want to see us waste away like that. But we're addicted, right? You can't stop. That's the tough reality about being in a trauma bond. When you're in it, you're in it. You're stuck. Another sign of being in a trauma bond is when you rationalize or minimize the abuse. You downplay it. Act like it's not as bad as you think. Or as other people think. They don't really know. Or you'll rationalize and think, well, maybe there's a reason why this happened. It's maybe some of my fault. Or maybe they just grew up in a fucked up environment. Or maybe they just had history with other people that kind of resulted in them being this way now, whatever. We'll try to just make sense of it to cope with it and minimize it, never really calling it out for what it is. Like seeing it objectively. Like if another person's seen it, they would tell you straight out, no, this is abuse. This is unacceptable. And this person might even kill you if you don't get out of there. Get the fuck away from them. But you won't see it that way. You'll be like, no, I'm fine. It's fine. Another sign is when you do blame yourself. You think that somehow it's up to you to make sure these things don't happen to you. And somehow you provoke the violence or the cheating or whatever the bad abusive behavior is. You'll internalize it and blame yourself because, and it makes sense, right? Because when you're being abused by someone, the essence of trauma is a loss of self. So you already feel like you don't have your own identity. You get so absorbed into them and you're so preoccupied with them and their needs that you abandon yourself completely. And so when you're being abused, it makes sense to try to think in terms of what can I do to make this better? And by saying it's my fault this is happening is like giving yourself a little bit of hope in that if you did something differently, maybe it wouldn't happen. Because if you provoked it, maybe you can also avoid it. It has to do with you, not them. And that's just a survival mechanism, but it never works out. Because it's never your fault. If somebody's abusing you, it's nothing that you did wrong that brought that upon you. And obviously, even if you don't do anything wrong, you're still not going to stop it. You can't guarantee it won't happen again because an abuser is an abuser. Whether you feel like you deserve it or not, it's going to happen. You'll find yourself walking on eggshells You'll think that as long as you don't poke the sleeping bear, you might get through the day. And you're just hyper vigilant and always wondering how they're feeling, what they're, what's going on with them. And you just try to tiptoe around them and do everything that you possibly can, again, to try to avoid another eruption and another episode of abuse. And this is something that's continual. It just becomes your new normal. Like you're always on eggshells. You're always wondering what's this person going through, what's going to happen. Yes.
So, can a trauma bond be between family members?
If there's abuse, yes. If there's abuse,
It's not just like strictly relationship, right?
right, it's abuse. Yes, it definitely can happen. If there's abusive parents, like my father did that to me and my sister, sometimes he would be very nice to us, and then other times he was a monster. And that's very confusing, and it's very devastating for a child to grow up in those conditions. And this is why I developed a disorganized attachment style. And I also confused chaos and drama and abuse with love, because things were chaotic when I was a child. And my dad was a typical Jekyll and Hyde, belligerent, abusive, maniac, drunk. And so, yeah, it can definitely happen with family, not just relationships, intimate relationships. You'll go through the cycles of idealization and devaluation, like I showed you guys yesterday with the cycle of narcissistic abuse. It always starts with the love bombing, which is also the idealization stage. It's when you think they're everything that you ever wanted or needed. You see them as a perfect match. And then comes the devaluation stage, when they start to put you down, abuse you one way or another. It could be verbal, mental, emotional, physical, financial, social. There's so many ways that narcissists abuse their victims. Pretty much you have all the different types of abuse wrapped up into one type of person. That's what they're capable of, because they're so egocentric and they have no empathy. So they don't care how they hurt you. Their objective is to just maintain control over you. And by keeping you backpedaling on the ropes, confused, worried, concerned about them and their needs, it gives them that opportunity to continue to manipulate and control you and extract whatever supply it is that they seek from you, because they're definitely using you to get something out of you. And they have to cycle you through that love bombing and then the abuse, the love bombing, and that's how this trauma bond works. Like I said, it's intermittent reinforcement, just like the slot machine. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. But even when you don't really win, you feel like you're winning something because you've already dumped a bunch of money into it. And so also remember, the amount of relief that you experience is in proportion to the pain. So once you start to get abused severely, they don't even have to do anything really extravagant anymore. They just have to not hit you one day. If you've been getting beat every day and then one day they don't hit you, you're going to think, wow, this is so fucking awesome. I didn't get hit today. And it's nothing. That's normal. You should never get beat, especially by someone you live with or that claims to love you. But it's those little things that psychologically it releases those chemicals, and you start to feel like things are going to be okay, and like they might actually love you because they didn't beat you that day. And it's very confusing. When you're unable to leave despite wanting to, you should, you might even want to and think I got to figure out a way, but I can't. And there's different reasons why for different types of people. If you're dealing with a very scary, violent, ruthless, cold, psychopathic, malignant narcissist, yeah, you'll probably be in fear of your life or the lives of your loved ones. And so you'll want to leave, but you won't leave because you'll want to stay alive, even if you're suffering. And there's other reasons why people just stay stuck. They just feel like they can't. They're paralyzed in one way or another. It might be through fear or reliance. You've allowed yourself to become overly dependent on them financially, physically. It might even be sexually. You might feel like if you leave them, you're just never going to find anybody else to satisfy you the way they do. And so You make those compromises. You just think, I have to stay for whatever reason. Even though it's not good for me, this is what I'm stuck with. Yeah.
Another big one is if you have children together.
Children is another one too. Yeah. Like I said, you get so caught up in them, you end up prioritizing their needs over yours. You lose yourself in them. And you don't even know who you are anymore because you're just theirs now. You're not even your own person. You become their possession. And that's not healthy ever. It's not right. You prioritize them over yourself and you abandon yourself in the process. You're constantly craving their approval or validation. This is also linked to emotional dependency. If you didn't have it before you met them, they create it in you because you realize that they are the ones that dictate how you feel. And you crave that validation and approval from them because if they don't treat you kindly or say something nice to you, you feel like absolute shit because they've broken you down so much. They've tore apart whatever small, frail self-esteem you might have had in the beginning, because usually it is the case that people who don't even have a good house self-esteem are the ones that get caught up in these cycles because the love bombing is just so indulgent. It's like, wow, this person really likes me more than I like myself. And that's how they get you. Because if you had a high self-esteem, you wouldn't really be impressed by the flattery and the compliments or whatever extra shit that they're doing. You'd kind of probably see through it and be like, oh, this is too much. Like, you're doing too much. Quit trying to gas me up. Like, I'm cool with who I am, but I know I ain't all that. But it's when you really feel like you ain't shit and then they dump all this extra on you that you start to feel some type of way and like, oh, damn, this is great. And so just that much gets them in, and then they break you down and they really make sure you have no self-esteem. And they literally convince you that it's only them that gives you value. And without them, you are nothing. This is what they want their victims to believe always. Without them, you are absolutely nothing. And no one else will want you. And so you're constantly seeking their approval because they become your everything. They become your whole world. You might even prioritize them over your own children, anything else. It's like, it's just what they say and what they do is what matters and nothing else. You'll be confused about reality. You'll question your own perception because they gaslight you to no end. And so through that gaslighting and all this stuff, the lying and the fighting and all that stuff, the fear mongering, the abuse, all that stuff, what it does to you psychologically is it causes you to question even your own experiences and the things that you know to be true based on what you see, what you hear, what you feel, all that stuff. But you'll just be so out of touch with yourself through the trauma, through the abuse, that you won't have a grasp on it anymore. You don't even know what's real. Add to that, let's say you're in addiction with this person. Let's say you're drinking every day to try to cope. You're getting high every day to try to cope on top of all of this. So yeah, you're going to be completely zombified by them. And that's how they want you until they're done, until they've drained you of every last drop of blood. And then they discard you. Another sign is you'll defend them. There are cases of people who have been abused, and when neighbors get involved, when strangers on the street get involved, the abuser says, stop. Leave him alone. I saw a video the other day of a couple. It was at a game, I think at a Cardinals game or something. They were walking together, and there was a bunch of people at this event. It was like a sporting event, like a football game. And this big ass dude and his short little woman, they're going at it. He's got her on the ground in front of everybody. So you can imagine what happens at home. In front of everybody, in public, at a sporting event. There's tons of people around. He's got her on the ground. He's on top of her, and he's punching her in the face like she's a grown-ass man. He's wailing on her. So another guy sees this, tackles him, gets him down on the ground, and she gets up and grabs the guy that was helping her and starts attacking him and saying, leave him alone, get off of him.
That's a great example.
And this is what a trauma bond looks like.
Yeah.
It's so sad. There are people who will lie to the police. Cops get called. She's beat up bad. And instead of saying, yeah, he hit me in front of my kids, they'll say, get out of here. I don't need your help. It's none of your business. How'd you get those bruises on your face, man? Why are you bleeding? Oh, I fell. I hurt myself. I don't know who called you, but I don't need your help. Get out of here. They'll lie to defend this guy. And in other cases, when family members bring it up and say, hey, you've changed since you've been with this person. You're not the same. You don't come around anymore. I can tell something's going on. You don't look happy. I've heard things. What's really, and you'll just defend that person and be like, you don't know nothing about my relationship. You don't know him like I know him or her. And stay out of it. And this is why I don't fucking talk to you people. Because you guys want to get in everybody else's business. Leave me the fuck alone. And get defensive. When really people are just concerned. They just care. And they're like, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Leave me the fuck alone. They'll get vicious and fight to protect the abuser. To try to preserve whatever it is that they think they got going on in their fantasy world of like, this is going to be great someday, but really it ain't. But that's just the nature of this condition. I wanted to solidify this in your mind so you can understand and know how deep and how impactful this can be on somebody. And there isn't an easy fix to it. I wish I could tell you, bam, snap your fingers, it's done, it's over, you're free. No, because these things take time. And there's also preconditions that set the stage for this to happen. Just like drugs and alcohol abuse and addiction. Toxic relationships. Addiction to substances. Or addictions in general to anything. They all kind of have similar origins. And I think the vast majority, if not all people who struggle with addictions of any type or toxic relationships of any type, those are just the symptoms of deeper underlying issues. That's like the tip of the iceberg. But this is a big tip here. This is a big issue that everybody can obviously see, but what we don't know is what you might know about yourself that goes way beneath the surface. And the thing is, until you tackle that stuff, you're going to continue to have these issues with different people. Because even if I tell you like, all right, you're in a bad relationship with somebody, leave them or leave her. Cut off all contact, break up with them. You would think that's good enough. No, it's not, because if you don't deal with yourself and what else you got going on deep down inside, you might break up with that person, but you're going to find yourself with another one that's just like them, or maybe even worse. I know in my life, I experienced the same shit over and over again with different people. So then I had to be honest with myself and realize, I go, okay. What is it about me that likes them? And what is it about me that draws them? Because narcissists and their victims connect like magnets. For one reason or another, we are drawn to them, they are drawn to us, and it's like automatic. Because it seems like they have something we're looking for, and we obviously have what they're looking for, and so it just goes together like peanut butter and jelly. But it's absolutely miserable. What helped me, first of all, was giving myself time to heal. It's not enough to just break free, just like it's not enough to get sober. Your drug and alcohol problem, it's not going to get solved if you just stop drinking and using drugs. That's part of it. That's a main part, actually. Like, don't expect to find your recovery if you're not going to quit, at least. Like, at least get sober so you can be in your right mind, so you can go through these groups and shit, right? But it also takes more than just that, right? It's not just abstinence. That's not the solution. That's why when people think they could just go to detox and then now it's out of their system, they're fine, they can go back at it. No, it doesn't work. There's people even come to places like this and spend 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. What happens? They go out and they're back at it again. Even after having experienced the withdrawals, the homelessness, the jail time, the rehabs, in and out of rehabs, detoxes, all this shit. Like, you would think that's enough to convince a person, to compel them to be like, okay, this time, I'm not going back to that. But they do. And it's like a dog returning to its own vomit. And this is what we do with our relationships. If we're not willing to do our work on ourselves and see what's going on within us that needs to be healed, adjusted, incorporated. Sometimes we just need to learn some skills that we don't have. And it's okay. If you're ignorant, if you just don't know, that's fine. If you don't know, then don't blame yourself for not knowing. But I think there comes a higher level of accountability when you do know. You learn some things and you're not willing to apply it. And I think you're going to pay a heavier price. Because I've never heard of anybody who has gone through treatment like this, who spent some time in these groups, gaining some information, some tools, and then went back and they relapsed and they felt better for it. I think it feels worse, right? When you know, you're like, fuck, I know I shouldn't be at this bar right now. I shouldn't be in this trap house right now. I shouldn't be fucking sticking this needle on my arm. I know better. Kind of makes it worse, right? You can't enjoy it like that. It's the accountability.
You feel like a really heavy guilt.
Yeah.
I feel like since you feel worse, you kind of, your relapse, you can go back to it harder.
You discipline yourself.
The first step to healing from a trauma bond is to acknowledge that it's real. Don't blame yourself, but admit to yourself that maybe you have been trauma bonded. And if you just put that label on, you say, let's say you're currently dealing with a situation like that. It's fine if you just admit to yourself, I'm trauma bonded. Like, I'm trauma bonded. And it takes it away from you blaming yourself to just understanding the nature of this dynamic. And it's also not a good thing to just hate the other person, to hate the abuser and be like, oh, this is what they've been doing to me. They're narcissists and they've just been using me. I hate them. And you start to fuel that resentment. That's not good. That's not healthy either. It's important to not cause yourself to be full of guilt and shame, but also to be careful not to develop resentments against the other person. Just look at it objectively. They're sick in their own way. You've been sick in your own way. Together, this relationship has been completely unhealthy, and it won't stop until you decide to work something out in your own life to change things for you, at least. You might not be able to change them, but you can definitely change your situation and how you experience life. So naming it, realizing, damn, I've been in a trauma bond is important. Then also memorizing and understanding the different patterns. What I showed you guys yesterday, the cycle of abuse, the idealization, the devaluation, the discard, the re-engagement, are also called hoovering stage, when they try to come back into your life to try to re-engage and start that cycle all over again and try to love bomb you again. Understanding what this is, this psychological neurochemical addiction to the highs and the lows, just like being stuck on that slot machine, the intermittent reinforcement between making you feel good to treating you like shit, and then making you feel good, treating you like shit. Like, that's the pattern. And that's what also gets us hooked. Stop romanticizing the good moments. Stop looking at something that in its entirety is nothing good, just because you're pinpointing small little blips of time. Same thing with our addiction. I said this at the center the other day, and you could apply it to this kind of circumstance as well with a relationship with an abusive partner. If you look back on your addiction and you try to see anything good about it that gives you those feelings of like, oh, that'd be nice, I want to go back to that. To me, it's the same as digging through a big, huge pile of shit and trying to find a little piece of corn that wasn't digested and thinking, that looks tasty, I want to eat that.
It's like a needle in a haystack.
Because the entirety of it is a pile of shit. But you're not going to focus on that. You're just going to look at the little piece of corn kernel and think, that'd be good to eat. I want that. That's what our addiction looks like. And that's what our toxic relationship looks like if we're in an abusive trauma bond with somebody. Like, look at it for what it is as a whole. Don't try to just pick something good out of it, because that's not going to change what the reality is. Remember that those good moments, even if they were what you think is good, just remember, it was always just a tool for manipulation. In your mind, it might have been good. In their mind, it was just a way to control you. It was a seduction. There was absolutely nothing sincere, nothing authentic about it. It's a scam. Every time. Yeah.
Is the abuser ever conscious that they are manipulating?
Of course. Of course. Especially if they're narcissists. Narcissists are constantly scheming and thinking of what they can do and how they can take advantage of people, how they can extract supply from people. So when a narcissist goes to, let's say, to a public gathering, a social gathering, they're always scanning the room. And they're always looking to see who's the most interesting person that they can start talking to. And they don't get good night's sleep. They're very restless. Narcissists have a hard time sleeping. When they're not on drugs, they have a hard time sleeping because their mind is always reeling. And just think how exhausting it must be for somebody who has to keep up so many lies. Because they're continuously lying and lying and lying. And they got to have a good memory for that. And it's exhausting. It takes a lot of energy. But that's just how their minds work. And because they lack empathy, they don't really care about how it's going to make you feel. Their main concern is how can they keep you asleep? How can they keep you in that condition of being under their control? And this is why it's very dangerous to try to confront them when you realize what's going on, because once they know that you know, now they might turn on you and really rip you to shreds. If you thought the abuse was bad before, watch out. They're capable of anything, even murder. So I would never recommend that you try to confront a person like that directly. The best thing would be for you to go no contact and just completely move on with your life and heal. Work on yourself. Give yourself time. Stay away from them. Do not give them access to you. Through text, through social media, through a phone call, through coming to see you in person, anything like that. Because it's always going to be a possibility that they can once again activate that programming that they have instilled in you. They planted these seeds in your mind already. It's there. And this is why we get stuck with them. We're in a trauma bond because they did something to us psychologically that now we become almost like their slaves. And they know the words. They know their own little juju and witchcraft, hocus pocus thing that they did to us, right? Pretty much. So they know how to get to us because they've spent time studying us, becoming acquainted with us, and also testing limits and seeing how much we'll tolerate, and also using it to their advantage. And so it's very dangerous. You're never going to have the upper hand with a person like that who's already done that to you. The only way you will be able to take control of your life and be free is if you completely separate yourself and detach from them. Yes?
Come to think about it, it makes a lot of sense now, because that's what my ex would say, like, I didn't get to explain it, she'd always say I'm always watching and I'm always like studying you, and I notice everything like you don't think so, but it's like, now it makes sense. 'Cause
Yeah.
She won't like word it that way, but she'd like be like, I know everything, like I study you, like I'm always like this.
Straight up.
Yeah. Don't be flattered by that, bro. It's creepy.
The other side eye, you know?
I do have another question. Is it possible for there to be two abusers? Not necessarily at one time, but it can kind of like one time one person's doing this and then like back and forth.
Back and forth, yeah, sure. So a lot of times when you're with somebody like that, you'll pick up on their behaviors, and you can mirror their behaviors. And like I know in my history, I wasn't just the victim always just being abused. I became the abuser sometimes. And that's what happens. It's like when you're with a toxic partner, whether they're narcissists or not, their negative energy is going to rub off on you. And you're going to get out of character. And you're going to be, and this is part of losing yourself. You become somebody that you're not. And you explode and you get dysregulated and you end up saying things or doing things that you really didn't want to do, but it happened, right? And you have to take responsibility for that. Like I have to own the fact that I have put hands on my exes, and I did cheat and I did say things, and I was hurtful and deliberate and intentional and cruel. But that's not who I truly am. And I'm not blaming them, but I know that when I put myself in certain circumstances with certain kind of people, I get out of pocket. So the best way for me to be true to myself is keep away and keep those boundaries up. And I'm not gonna allow myself to be in a situation where I'm being attacked all the time, and so I become defensive or go on the offense, because that's what it is. When you're with somebody like that, you're in war.
Yeah, it feels like.
And you might be a prisoner of war, or you might be a combatant in that war. Either way.
Yeah.
Some people do end up lashing out and becoming abusive. Some people don't. Some people just sit there and take it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, it's like, well, you did this to me. If this is how you're going to be, like, you know, you're continuing this, then, you know, then I'll do it to you too.
Right.
Even though you don't see yourself, but then it sucks because you're putting yourself at that level and you're putting yourself down at that level.
And then it makes you feel bad because you know that's not really how you want to be.
Down in your
Yeah.
job.
So if you can, go no contact. If it's safe, if you're in a safe position to just completely eliminate them from your life, do that. If you share kids with them or it's just impossible for you to completely go no contact, limit that contact and also implement new boundaries. But do it tactfully. Like I said, don't confront them on this and say, I studied about this and I know now that you're a narcissist and this has been a trauma bond. Don't do all that. Just start to change your own way of operating with them. And it's going to be difficult, but I would also recommend that you do create some distance and that you also protect yourself from being caught up again with them. And that's in the case where you have to interact with them. Let's say if you had kids with somebody like that, try to use a mediator or have somebody else present. Keep receipts, records of your interactions. Do not trust them. And try not to ever be alone with them. And I would say definitely don't get back with them. Like, do not go back into that situation. Building a support network is important. Just like in recovery from drugs and alcohol. We need support. So find people that you can hang out with. You don't want to isolate, because that's how they continue to deepen the trauma bond, is they isolate us. They like to keep you separate from people that care about you so that you can just only be at in their control. Yeah. And they want to be the ones to only give you relief when they decide or continue to torment you and you can't do anything about it. They don't want nobody else to get involved. So do the reverse. Find yourself with new friends or go back to your old friends that are healthy, or your family. Connect with people that are important to you again. Get back in touch with your kids. Get back in touch with your church groups or your community, your sober community, your sober friends, stuff like that is important. Stay plugged in, build a support network, and also engaging in your therapy and stuff like that. It's really important. Get those allies on your side to help continue to encourage you. You can validate your feelings and don't judge yourself. If you're feeling, because you will go through withdrawal. This kind of addiction also comes with withdrawal, emotional withdrawal. You'll start to miss them. You'll start to feel empty without them. Even though you felt empty with them, for some reason, without them, you still feel empty. And it seems even worse. But just push through it. Just like you did when you went to detox. You can detox from them too. So you can validate how you feel. If you want to write about it, talk about it with your therapist, or write in your journal, just know that if you miss them, if you feel guilty, if you're grieving them, if you're confused, that's normal. It's just part of the process of recovering. And just remind yourself that the way you feel isn't who you are. Those are just feelings that you're having. Don't combine your identity with your feelings. Just own your feelings and know, yes, those are your feelings and it's okay to feel them. But also know that you're going to be okay. And you're doing the right thing for yourself by staying away from them. And your kids if there's kids involved. Try to take away things that remind you of them. Remove those things from your vision. Unfollow them on social media. Stay away from triggering places or people. And give yourself space to focus on yourself. Get rid of those little trinkets and those things and those pictures and stuff, whatever you like saving. Get rid of that stuff. Get it out of your mind. Because as long as you continue to remind yourself of them, it's going to pull you back in that direction. And you don't want to be scrolling on social media and see them either, or have them hit you up and all that. So just, if you don't want to get rid of your social media, at least block them. Don't just unfriend them because they're going to request you again, or they're going to stalk you, or you're still going to see them pop up if you have mutual friends. Like, just block them. Just block them. If you can. And the more that you reduce your emotional activation through the reminders, that gives you the ability to break free from this. It weakens this bond. Distance and time, being separate, it starts to help you feel connected to yourself again and not just stuck and attached to them. And rebuild your sense of self. Like I said, when you're in a cycle of abuse with a person like this and trauma bonded, you're going to lose yourself in them. It's time for you to find yourself back. Get reacquainted with who you are as a person. And don't identify yourself as whatever they made you into be or whatever they said you are. Don't believe in any of that. Start really just looking into who you are. Connect with your own inner child. Find that raw, pure, true essence of who you are as a person. Journaling, therapy, positive affirmations. Starting to get back into the things you like doing, your hobbies, all that shit that you stopped doing for this person. Start doing it again for yourself. Talking to your old friends, the people that they told you not to talk to anymore, start talking to them. Reconnect. Get back in tune with yourself, with your own interests, your own core values. That's really important. And practice regulating your emotions. Start doing these healthy coping skills, the deep breathing, the grounding techniques, mindfulness, moving your body, get in touch with your body, eating healthy, getting a good sleep schedule, self-care. When you start doing that and you create a safe environment for yourself, you'll start to experience exponential growth in terms of you being liberated and not just free, but basking in that freedom. And like, wow, this is fucking wonderful. It's like, imagine being trapped in a little kennel, like a dog cage where you can't even stand up. And you're just like stuck and your body's stiff. And now you're in the dark, but now you finally get outside and you're able to walk and move around and feel the sunlight. And you're like, damn, this is so much better. This is great. That's how it can be. If you start to really give yourself that opportunity and just practice this stuff, you'll start to feel the pressure come off your chest because you don't have to worry about them anymore. You don't. You never did, actually. They were never your prerogative. They were never your responsibility. They were never somebody that you belonged to. Now is the time for you to show yourself that you are free, you are an individual, you are worthy, and give yourself that love that they never gave you, that no one else could ever give you. The kind of love that surpasses anything else. You can love yourself more than anyone else ever could. Even your own kids can't love you the way you can love yourself. Even our parents, if they were good to us, can never love us the way we can love ourselves. Because day in and day out, you're the one that spends the most time with yourself. Every second of every moment of your life is you're with you. So when you learn to take care of you, that's better than anybody else could. And you learn to listen to your own needs and accommodate those needs. And by building that kind of self-reliance and that self-awareness, and then practicing the regulating and the stability and calming you and self-soothing, that gives you that confidence and that power to know that no one else completes you and no one else can make you or break you. You stand alone in this world and you're perfectly fine as a whole person. And you also have a lot of love to give. But you can't pour from an empty cup. In order for you to be able to give love to others, like true love to your kids, to your family, to your friends, or maybe some possible significant other in the future, first you got to fill your cup. You got to have enough for you. And you can't give them your last reserve of the last couple drops you got left. You got to be able to pour from an abundant supply. And that also gets replenished by you. You have to be able to continuously fill yourself again and again and again to be able to have something to transmit to others. Because you're not going to transmit something you don't have. This has been key for me. It worked in my life. I've experienced all this stuff, and today it's not even an issue. And the past doesn't haunt me anymore. And I don't have a resentment. I don't hate narcissists. I don't hate none of my exes, even though some of them tried to get me killed or tried to kill me themselves. It's just water under the bridge. And I'm grateful for the experiences. I'm grateful for my life that I'm still here. And having this opportunity to share this stuff with you because it's so important to me. And I know you can do it too. If I was able to do it, you can do it too. You all have the key to set yourselves free. Believe that. You're sitting on a gold mine. What you've been seeking from other people doesn't exist. It's been within you the whole time. I think it's time just to tap into it. Connect with yourself and you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's take a break.